try to integrate competency based learning or achieve competency based learning through our program. Let us first see the structure of the program, how we do in the program. So this the flowchart basically represents the structure of this entire program and the different stages of competency based learning program. The first step is the 5 days training session, as मैम has mentioned कि firstly TGTs जो subject wise TGTs हैं उनको train किया जाता है on what exactly we mean by competency based learning और उसको achieve कैसे किया जाएगा. Now competency based learning की जब हम बात कर रहे हैं तो we have to make a teaching competency based as well. Teaching is entirely based on our lesson plans, right? हम जब भी किसी क्लास में पढ़ाने जाते हैं we basically create a lesson plan जिसके accordingly हम अपने क्लास में lessons को deliver करते हैं. So lesson plans needs to be competency based in order to teaching, in order to make teaching competency based, in order to make learning competency based. Or lesson plan, apart from lesson plan, project work is also a very important part of it. We will discuss about project work later as well. So once we talk about the session, in the session we talk about different practices, different pedagogical strategies, the format, the structure of the lesson plan, क्या क्या वो quality criterias हैं, किस तरह से हमको अपने lesson plan को design करना है, किन किन चीजों का ध्यान रखना है. All those things we discuss in detail during that 5-day training session. Teachers create their lesson plans. Teacher create competency based lesson plan. There is a lot of discussion on that created lesson plan. उनकी पैनलिंग होती है, उन लेसन प्लान्स का रिव्यू होता है, टीचर्स को फीडबैक मिलता है, एंड देन अगेन वी हैव अ डिस्कशन एंड इवेंचुअली वी फाइनलाइज सम लेसन प्लान्स फॉर टीचर्स रेफरेंस एज वेल इन दैट ट्रेनिंग सेशन. So that is about the first step of this program, which is competency based learning. Now once the teachers are trained, once the teachers are well versed with the principles and the criteria of competency based lesson plan, a task is allocated to teachers monthly basis. On a monthly basis एक task teachers को allocate किया जाता है where a concept is given from a chapter of a particular grade of that respective subject. अगर साइंस टीचर है तो साइंस का, अगर इंग्लिश टीचर्स हैं तो इंग्लिश टीचर्स के. तो एक पर्टिकुलर कॉन्सेप्ट दिया जाता है और उस कॉन्सेप्ट के लिए एक फॉर्मेट दिया जाता है. उस फॉर्मेट में उस कॉन्सेप्ट को लेकर द टीचर क्रिएट्स अ लेसन प्लान considering and keeping in mind all the discussion that we have had in that session. तो सेशन की जो भी लर्निंग है उसको लेकर टीचर अपने लेसन प्लान्स क्रिएट करते हैं. आई मिस्ड वन थिंग. All those teachers who are part of that session, they are called coordinators, they are called CBL coordinators, and one of the responsibility of CBL coordinator is to share whatever they are learning with all the peer teachers as well, right? So once they go back to the school, they have to share whatever they have learned in that session. So जब भी task allocation होता है, the teacher can also take help of the peer teachers, right? So it is a monthly task. They have to submit the final lesson plan or project work within the timeline created in that particular format, catering to that concept that was allocated. Right. So once the task is allocated, the next step is lesson plan and project work creation. So teachers create करते हैं. They can take the help of the peer teachers as well. Now, once they create a lesson plan on a given concept or a project work on a given concept, they send it back to us. So we have a team who review that lesson plan. जहां पर भी refining की जरूरत है, if there are some bare minimum modifications required, we do it from our side. जो भी छोटी modifications है वो हम करते हैं, and we finalize that lesson plan and we upload into a folder, right? But if there are some major errors, if there are some major modifications need to be done, we mention some feedback points and we send the lesson plan back to the creator teacher. जिस भी टीचर ने क्रिएट किया हम उनको वापस भेजते हैं, so that they go through the feedback, they make those refinement, they make those modification, and also they keep those points in mind for the next lesson plans as well. वो जो feedbacks वो पढ़ रहे हैं वो बाकी के coming lesson plans में भी उनको incorporate कर पाए, right? So this is the third step, which is lesson plan and project work creation. At any point when you are creating the lesson plan, when the teacher is creating a lesson plan or project work, if they have any question, if they have any doubt, if they are struggling with the idea, they can always ask for a need based session, and people from our team will be there to address their doubts and queries and their concerns, right? Now, after this, we also conduct a 2-day implementation training for all the teachers, because some teachers might not be part of that 5-day training session. तो किस तरह से जो भी resources आपके generate हो रहे हैं, whether they are lesson plans या फिर वो project work है, उनको classroom में utilize कैसे करना है, use कैसे करना है, that is what we talk about, that is what we discuss in this 2-day implementation training. right? And lastly, once you have final lesson plans, once you have final project works, the teacher implement them in the classroom to incorporate competency based learning. So this is the structure of competency based learning program. ये stages हैं competency based learning programs की. Any question in regards with any of the stage, any of the structure of this program? Any question? This program is already done. The 5-day training session is already completed in Chennai. So I think this program is already getting implemented. The task has been allocated. The teachers have created some lesson plans as well. So if there is any question, please feel free to ask. Let me also take the question from chat. Okay, somebody is asking for the attendance link. Sir, I have reshared the attendance link. You can mark the time. If there is no question, please give me a thumbs up so we can move ahead. Only one thumbs up. So if you have any question, please ask. Yes,
Hello.
sir has. Ji, sir, please go ahead.
So, hello, sir. I'm Vice Principal Kendriya Vidyalaya
Okay.
IIT.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
hi, ma'am.
Yeah, good afternoon to all of you. And, sir, could you please tell us like a model of the lesson plan if you could share? And
Yes, yes,
we'll have a clear
yes.
idea as to what we have to assess.
Yes,
Or,
we will definitely discuss the lesson plan in detail, ma'am.
yes, sir.
हमने इस PPT में भी एक lesson plan का sample रखा है to have a discussion on. So we will have a discussion on that,
Thank
right?
you, sir. Thank you, sir.
This is just to show you the structure of the program कि किस stage पर हम क्या करते हैं. This is just to show you that. Detail में हम आगे बात करने वाले हैं. Okay, let's see the progress of Chennai region when it comes to competency based learning. So the data here displays the data displayed here shows the progress when it comes to Chennai region in for this program competency based learning. So the 5 days capacity building training session has been done for all the subjects. The TGTs who have been trained, who have been part of this capacity building program in Chennai region are 202. The implementation training has to still has to be done. Implementation training abhi nahi hui hai. It's not scheduled yet. Now, when it comes to the data of the resources, when we talk about project works and lesson plans, उन resources की data की जब हम बात करते हैं, the bottom table shows you that the count of resources collectively, lesson plans and project work created by TGTs across KVS is more than 9,000. Now, out of this, from the Chennai region, the teachers who have contributed is 1,235. इतने resources हमें चेन्नई region से भी मिले हैं. Overall count of resources uploaded in the resource pool is 690. Resource pool में इतने हमने resources upload कर दिए after finalization, right? Now resources, lesson plan and project work जो resource pool में चेन्नई region की तरफ से गए हैं final होकर, that is 42. Resources accepted at the initial review process, जो first process में ही accept हो गए हैं, those are 6 जिनको modification की जरूरत नहीं हुई है जिसके लिए. Those which were needed to be modified are 65. Right? So this data basically represents the progress of Chennai region in the competency-based learning program. Now, as ma'am has mentioned, let's have a look at the resources of the CBL program. कौन-कौन से resources हैं teachers? What resources are we generating? What resources are we providing for these programs? What is the primary resource? What resource are we generating from this plan firstly, which we are getting as an outcome of this program?
CBL, sir, CBL, na?
Basically, the resource
CBA
pool.
and CBL, CBL, CBA.
For now we are talking about CBL, ma'am. So CBL के resource pool की जब हम बात कर रहे हैं, resource pool is basically a sheet
Resourceful,
folder
yes.
जहां पर आपके जितने भी final lesson plans होंगे, which are competency based lesson plans, या जितने भी project work होंगे, competency based project work, जो final हो जाएंगे, upload होंगे in this resource pool. This resource pool can be accessed by the teachers who are taking the classes in the Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangathan schools. So जो भी concept आप पढ़ाने जा रहे हैं, you can take appropriate learning lesson plan or project work from this resource, right? Now, other than the resource pool, whenever we allocate the task, we also provide a lesson plan format. This is a format in which competency-based lesson plan is created, right? ये फॉर्मेट जो है इसको भी हम आगे डिटेल में डिस्कस करने वाले हैं. ये हम एलोकेशन के टाइम पे अलोंग विद द कॉन्सेप्ट डिटेल्स टीचर्स को एलोकेट करते हैं. Third is the lesson plan organizers. You all must be familiar with this. Lesson plan organizer is where the teacher keeps all the details of whatever they are teaching, however they are teaching. वो सभी details organizer में वो fill करते हैं, right? Lesson plan organizer का sample भी हम in this PPT, in this session देखेंगे going forward. Let's start with the first resource. Just give me a second. There are some questions in the chat. Okay, so if you're not unable to mark your attendance, you can yes mention in the chat. So the first resource is the resource pool. As you can see, this is a glimpse of that resource pool. This is how it looks. It is in the form of a Google Sheet. Now at the bottom, if you see, tabs बने हुए हैं. Those tabs are grade wise. तो grade wise tab बने हुए हैं. For example, this is the resource pool for maths. ये maths की Google Sheet है. Maths का resource pool है for grade 6 to 10. Now at the bottom, you will see the tab of each grade. Grade 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. जब आप किसी एक टैब पर जाएंगे इस तरह का इंटरफेस आपको दिखेगा which is right now on display, right? So on left side you will see the chapter name, the concept names and the concept based lesson plans availability. किसी एक concept के lesson plan की availability आपको दिखेगी in the fourth row. Availability in the resource pool. For example, patterns in numbers. क्या इस concept के लिए lesson plan है resource pool में? It is written yes. कितने वर्जन है? एक वर्जन है. Who created it? The author's name is mentioned it. Which region the author is from? The region name is mentioned. Then on the right side you will see version 1 PDF, which is the PDF version of the lesson plan created. राइट तो एक चैप्टर उसके कॉन्सेप्ट में अवेलेबिलिटी इन टर्म्स ऑफ लेसन प्लान किसने क्रिएट किया है, किस रीजन से किया है और उसका पीडीएफ वर्जन भी आपको क्लिकेबल फॉर्म में मिलेगा इन दिस रिसोर्स. So the teacher can simply, if the teacher is going to teach a concept which is, for example, from the chapter number play, and the concept is playing with number patterns, the teacher will simply see कि क्या resource pool में उसका lesson plan already है, and they can click on that PDF file and they can access the competency-based lesson plan, aligning to catering to that concept, and they can use that lesson plan in their classroom, right? So this is how the resource pool looks. Let me show you. This is how the folder structure will be. For example, if I open science subjects resource pool, this is how the science subjects resource pool will look like, right? Very similar structure as we saw in the screenshot. So on the bottom, you will see grade 6, grade 7 new book, grade 8. So all these details are mentioned in the resource pool. और availability के साथ PDF file के links will be there in that resource pool, so the teacher can use those links, use those competency-based lesson plan to teach in their classroom. Any question regarding the resource pool? Sorry. No
Sir,
question?
our
Yes,
contract
ma'am.
teachers are there in few subjects. There is no parallel teachers in this section. They say that few concepts it is not available at CBL.
Yes, yes. It's very much possible, ma'am. The competency-based learning resource pool is still in progress. It is still evolving. There will be some concepts जिनके लिए अभी lesson plans नहीं बने हैं. There will be many concepts जिनके लिए lesson plans बन चुके हैं. But the tasks are still being allocated to different regions. कुछ regions में अभी भी trainings चल रही हैं. So some concepts are yet to be completed when it comes to the competency-based lesson plans. Right? उन्हीं के लिए allocations हो रहा है. But once the entire pool is created, then you will have the lesson plan for each and every concept.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, some of the principals or vice principals have raised their hand. Please ask your questions. KV Virudhunagar. KV Virudhunagar, you have raised your hand. Yes, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, ma'am.
Actually, the same thing I wanted to tell. We have used your resource pool for some topic. The CBL lesson plan was not
Yes,
available.
yes.
And
That is true, ma'am. That is actually true. Resource pool is not yet complete. राइट। सो कुछ कॉन्सेप्ट्स के लिए लेसन प्लान्स अभी बन रहे हैं, सम ऑफ द कॉन्सेप्ट हैव लेसन प्लान्स जो अभी फाइनल नहीं हुए हैं, सो दे आर स्टिल इन रिव्यू प्रोसेस, so they need modification, they might be sent back to the teacher as well. So जो complete हो गए हैं, जो final हो गए हैं, जो ready to use है, they are already uploaded in the resource pool, while some of the concepts are yet to be completed when it comes to the lesson plan. Yes, KV Sulur sir, आपने sir ma'am, you have raised your hand from KV Sulur. KV Sulur sir ma'am,
No,
do
no,
you
sir,
have any
no problem.
question?
No, nothing, nothing.
Okay.
Link is not,
Okay.
link is not opening. That one I was
Okay,
saying.
okay. Okay. Just mention your name in the chat, sir. Actually, you
Okay,
raised your
okay,
hand,
sir.
so I
Okay,
thought you have a question. Okay,
nothing.
let's move on to the next resource. So this is how the format of the competency-based lesson plan looks like. तो ये structure है competency-based lesson plan का, showing all the components which are to be filled, whoever is creating the competency-based lesson plan. So during the allocation task, in the allocation mail, this format is given as an attachment to the teacher who is creating the lesson plan. Now, on the above part of this lesson plan, you can see the usual information about the grade, subject, chapter concept, learning outcomes, what are the resources required. All those details are mentioned. And then in the square that is given below, you will see objectives, teaching methodology, skills and attitudes, and competencies. Now let's explore these components one by one. So basically objectives, आप क्या aim कर रहे हैं through that class? What is the class teacher aiming? What are those objectives the class teacher is aiming to achieve during that lesson, during that class? Right? तो उन objectives को teachers list down करते हैं on your extreme left under the row objective. Right? The teaching methodology is how you are going to proceed with your class. Now, teaching methodology also has different components. Whenever you go into your class, you start with a warm up. You don't directly start with the technical concept. For example, मुझे science का कुछ concept introduce करना है, अगर मुझे metals and non metals पढ़ाना है, right? I will not directly talk about the technical part of it, the conceptual part of it. I will first start with a warm up, right? हम नोन टू अननोन की तरफ जो अप्रोच है उसको यूज करते हैं while teaching the student, so that it also sparks a curiosity in the student. So in the warm up we include those kind of discussion or maybe a short activity where you start the class with on a curiosity note, with a lot of curiosity, right? So that the student is warmed up for the concept building part. In the concept building part, which is going to take the major chunk of your class, you build the concept. उस grade में जितना भी concept build करना है, for example metals and non metals, अगर आपके grade में आपको chemical properties भी पढ़ाना है, physical properties भी पढ़ाना है, तो according to that grade, according to the curriculum, whatever information you want to build with respect to that concept in the student, that will come under the concept building part. Right? So once the concept has been built, now comes the extension. Extension is basically extending whatever you have taught from the book to the real life. तो रियल लाइफ एप्लीकेशन क्या है उस कॉन्सेप्ट की जो आपने पढ़ाया है, उस नोट पर आप अपनी क्लास को एंड करेंगे. So these are the components of the competency-based lesson plan. And after the class has been completed, it is followed by the assessment. Now, assessment can be done in the classroom. Assessment can also be given as the homework, right? So these are the different components of the teaching methodology of competency-based lesson plan. Now, during the class, आप warm up करवा रहा है टीचर, concept building करवा रहे हैं, extension करवा रहे हैं, कौन कौन सी स्किल्स बच्चे की एग्जिबिट हो रही हैं, कौन कौन सी वैल्यूज और एटीट्यूड बच्चा एग्जिबिट कर रहा है, दैट इज मेंशन्ड अंडर स्किल्स एंड एटीट्यूड पार्ट. राइट? फॉर एग्जांपल वार्म अप हो सकता है कि वार्म अप में बच्चे ग्रुप्स में कुछ कर रहे हैं, सो कोलैबोरेशन इज वन ऑफ द स्किल्स दैट द स्टूडेंट्स आर एग्जिबिटिंग. Right? Cooperation is one of the values or attitude that the students are exhibiting. Concept building में हो सकता है कि बच्चों को experiment कर रहा है, कुछ record कर रहा है. So experimentation becomes the skill. So at different points during the class, कौन सी skills बच्चे की exhibit हो रही हैं, use हो रही हैं, develop हो रही हैं, और कौन से attitudes और values बच्चा display पर कर रहा है, exhibit कर रहा है, all those skills and attitudes will be mentioned under that row. right? Then competencies, every subject has different competencies. साइंस की अलग competencies है, languages इंग्लिश हिंदी की अलग competencies है, social की अलग competencies है, social science की maths की अलग competencies है, right? So depending on your subject and depending on the lesson, कौन कौन से competencies आप build कर रहे हैं, that you have to mention under the competency rule. राइट इन सभी फॉर्मेट के सभी कंपोनेंट्स को और उनके क्राइटेरियाज को, कॉम्पिटेंसीज को, कौन से स्किल्स है, कौन सी वैल्यूज है, कौन सी अप्रोचेस है, कौन सी पेडागोजिकल स्ट्रेटजीज है, इन सभी एस्पेक्ट्स को डिटेल में डिस्कस किया जाता है इन दैट 5-day ट्रेनिंग सेशन. Any question regarding the format of competency based lesson plan before we move on to the next resource? Any questions, any doubts regarding the structure, the format of competency based lesson plan? So if we shall move ahead, please give me a thumbs up if we should move ahead. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. So we have talked about resource pool. We will see some samples of lesson plan as well. So project work as well, sorry. We have already seen the format of lesson plan. Now let's have a look at the third resource, that is the lesson plan organizers. We all must be familiar with this. This is how our lesson plan organizer looks like. Now इस lesson plan organizer को fill कैसे करना है teacher को? Let's have a discussion on that. Okay. So on the top side of the lesson plan organizer, you can see these are some basic details: the name of the teacher, the number of periods required, class, chapter, designation, subject, right? So these details are to be filled by the class teacher. Now, दिस इज द सोर्स ऑफ द लेसन प्लान. आपके कॉन्सेप्ट के लिए आप लेसन प्लान जो यूज करने वाले हैं अपनी क्लास में, आप उसको खुद बना रहे हैं या फिर आर यू टेकिंग इट फ्रॉम द रिसोर्स पुल? दैट इज समथिंग दैट यू हैव टू टिक अंडर दिस स्क्वायर, right? So if you are taking it from the resource pool, you have to tick on the resource pool. If you are creating it yourself, you have to tick on the self, right? As you have mentioned that for some of the concepts, lesson plan might not be there, or for some of the concepts, you might be allocated some lesson plan, right? So आप उसमें self को tick कर सकते हैं. Otherwise, if you're taking a lesson plan for your concept from the resource pool, you have to tick on that resource pool. Then on this side, you have to mention the name of the lesson plan developer. Lesson plan किसने develop किया है? If you have taken from the resource pool, the name of the author will be mentioned there. If you are creating it yourself, you have to mention your name. And then you have to mention the names of the concepts under that. Now let's come to the content part of your lesson plan organizers. So content part में जितनी भी details है, those details you have to take from the lesson plan that you are creating or taking from the resource pool. For example, if the teacher is taking a resource pool, a lesson plan from the resource pool, अगर आपको कोई concept पढ़ाना है, on the right side you can take a look at the sample. For example, this is for subject mathematics and chapter smart charts and concept tally marks. तो अगर आपको tally marks concept पढ़ाने के लिए lesson plan चाहिए और आपको वो resource pool से मिल गया है, आपने उसको pick किया है, you will add the details in your lesson plan organizers referring to that particular lesson plan. You can see concept mention है, आपको concept लिखना है in the lesson plan organizer. Secondly, there is a learning outcome mentioned. वो learning outcome आपको लिखनी है as a teacher in your lesson plan organizer. Then the pedagogical strategies. The teacher doesn't have to write the entire activity, पर उस activity में कोई ना कोई pedagogical strategy use हुई होगी, right? अगर सभी लोग मिलकर कर रहे हैं, कोलैबोरेशन कर रहे हैं, तो उस अकॉर्डिंगली आप pedagogical strategies लिखेंगे. If there is an experiment include, experimentation becomes the pedagogical strategies. If there is a video shown, if there are some animation shown, then ICT becomes the pedagogical strategy. So during that activity, which pedagogical strategies has been acquired by the teacher while teaching in the class, उस pedagogical strategy का नाम इस कॉलम में आपको लिखना, right? Now, many a times in competency based lesson plan, you might see that there are some integration in between the subjects. For example, even if I am teaching um, uh, a concept based lesson plan, if I have taken for the concept of let's say motion or time and motion, you might see there is an integration of maths as well, right? Similarly, agar aap biology ki baat kare, you might see integration of some other subjects as well. So whenever you see whenever the teacher sees there is an integration of multiple subjects within that lesson plan, that integration can be highlighted in this row, राइट? तो कौन से सब्जेक्ट्स है जिनके साथ इंटीग्रेट किया गया है, वो आप यहाँ पर लिख सकते हैं, वो क्लास टीचर यहाँ पर लिख सकते हैं. Now, once the lesson has been completed, obviously you will evaluate the students by assessments. You will assess the learning of the students by assessment. वो assessments भी आपको lesson plan में ही मिलेंगी. Now, assessments का format क्या है? That has to be mentioned in this row. Right? वो MCQs हैं, वो open-ended questions हैं, वो format को यहाँ पर लिखा जाएगा. We will have a detailed discussion on assessment items later. Resources required for every almost for every some lesson plan might not need some resources, but for most of the lesson plans you might need some resources. वो resources क्या हैं? Are they digital? Are they physical? That you have to mention in the resources column. During the discussion on the format structure, हमने जो एक रो डिस्कस किया था skills and attitude का, वो स्किल्स और एटीट्यूड में जो भी स्किल्स एंड एटीट्यूड और वैल्यूज लिखी गई होंगी, उनको आपको मेंशन करना है इन द लेसन प्लान ऑर्गेनाइजर अंडर द रो 21st सेंचुरी स्किल्स और वैल्यूज और एजुकेशन और वोकेशनल स्किल्स. So as you can see on the sample, communication, collaboration, open-mindedness, patience, critical thinking, experimentation, right? So all those skills or values which are exhibited by the students during that lesson, that has to be mentioned in the lesson plan organizer under the row, under the column, under the heading 21st century skills, value, education, vocational skills. We talked about different components during the structure of the competency based lesson plan, और extension की हमने बात की थी. एक्सटेंशन और रियल लाइफ एप्लीकेशन का आइडिया क्या है, उसको भी आप ब्रीफली लिखेंगे, उसको भी टीचर ब्रीफली लिखेंगे while filling the lesson plan organized. Any question regarding either of the resource, the lesson plan, resource pool, प्रोजेक्ट वर्क को हम आगे डिस्कस करने वाले हैं, द फॉर्मेट ऑफ द लेसन प्लान और द लेसन प्लान ऑर्गेनाइजर, किसी भी टर्म को लेकर, किसी भी स्ट्रक्चरल कंपोनेंट को लेकर, इफ देयर इज एनी क्वेश्चन प्लीज फील फ्री टू आस्क. No questions? I hope I am audible to everyone.
Yes, sir.
So shall we move ahead?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So this is the second page of your lesson plan organizer. After all the content details, if you have filled all the content details, this page basically displays the post teaching reflection. Right? So आपकी ऑब्जर्वेशंस क्या है, सेल्फ असेसमेंट क्या है, उसको लेकर कुछ क्राइटेरियाज हैं, कुछ चेकलिस्ट पॉइंटर्स हैं जो इस पेज पर दिए गए हैं. सो द टीचर हैज टू सिंपली ऑब्जर्व whatever they have observed during their classroom, during their lesson teaching, whenever they were teaching using a lesson plan, और जो भी self assessment teachers की है, on these criteria, on these pointers, they have to write down that. For example, was he able to keep time पे कर पाए, नहीं कर पाए, क्या students engage हुए, नहीं हुए, do I need to make any modifications to the plan. So all those criteria teacher can write the correct response, the observed response on this page. Okay. Let's come to the second resource of the CBL program. So we have talked about resource pool majorly, and then we have talked about the format required. We have also talked about the lesson plan organizer. Now, this is another thing which we get as a resource from competency-based learning program. It is project work. Now, what do we understand by project work? What is the significance of project work? Why do we need project works? Anybody?
Well, students have the autonomy to research on their own, where the teacher facilitates given a topic, given an issue, given a problem, and they have to go about in a scientific manner, and they enjoy the autonomy of doing the work assigned. It's not just a homework or text back questions.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Very rightly mentioned. So, see, classroom, we have a lot of limitations in our classroom, right? When it comes to the time, when it comes to the resources. So we sometimes we might not be able to ask students to perform something or give some problem or give some statements and come up with solution, which might not be possible under that timeline, or which might not be possible for under the given resources that we have, right? So project works basically serves the purpose of bridging that gap between theory and practical, right? तो जो आप रिसर्च की बात कर रहे थे मैम, जितनी भी हायर ऑर्डर थिंकिंग स्किल्स हैं बच्चे की, ऑब्वियसली वी ट्राई टू इंक्लूड दैट इन द लेसन प्लान्स एज वेल, बट रिसर्च, investigation, right, data interpretation, all those skills we can give that scope through the project works. Let's have a look at some of one of the project work which is created under this program. So let's have a look at the science project work that has been created by teachers from Ernakulam region. So just like a lesson plan, there is a certain structure of competency-based project work as well. मैम ने जैसा बोला कि there will be some set of instructions. बच्चे को exactly करना क्या है? Obviously, there will be set of instructions in that project work. In the initial part of the project work, there are some usual details, basic details about the grade, chapter, the competency, skills, values, attitudes, right? आफ्टर दैट सेट ऑफ इंस्ट्रक्शंस आर देयर. तो कौन कौन सी इंस्ट्रक्शंस हैं जो बच्चे को फॉलो करनी है ड्यूरिंग दैट प्रोजेक्ट वर्क, राइट? The child follows those instructions, whether there is some data recording, whether there is some observation, whether there is some analysis or data interpretation. The child does all those tasks, the student does all those tasks following the instruction mentioned in that project work, राइट? कुछ फॉर्मेट्स भी हम देते हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल, अगर बच्चे को कुछ डेटा रिकॉर्ड करना है, सो देयर इज अ टेबल गिवन, राइट? क्या डेटा रिकॉर्ड करना है, किस पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से डेटा को देखना है, टू गिव सम डायरेक्शन टू द स्टूडेंट सो दैट इट डज नॉट बिकम वेरी वेग, right? Obviously, if we are giving a project for science, it will include the scientific task majorly. बाकी टास्क भी हो सकते हैं, but majorly science task का होना जरूरी, right? So we give appropriate instructions, we give the format accordingly in which the student has to record their observation, whether it is data or any other observation as well. So after the set of instruction, once the project is completed, there is also a set of rubrics, right? बच्चों को असेस करने के लिए द स्टूडेंट्स परफॉर्मेंस, व्हाटएवर द स्टूडेंट हैज परफॉर्म, उसको असेस करने के लिए वी हैव क्लियर रूब्रिक्स फॉर दैट प्रोजेक्ट वर्क. अलग अलग प्रोजेक्ट वर्क के रूब्रिक्स अलग अलग हो सकते हैं. वन प्रोजेक्ट वर्क माइट गिव यू स्कोप ऑफ having testing some kind of task. The nature of task might be different in some other project work, right? आप केमिस्ट्री का कुछ टास्क दे रहे हैं, हो सकता है बच्चा वहां पर अलग तरह के एक्सपेरिमेंट कर रहा हो. बायोलॉजी का टास्क दे रहे हैं, हो सकता है बच्चा सिर्फ ऑब्जर्वेशन कर रहा हो. तो अलग अलग टास्क जो है उनके पैरामीटर्स भी अलग अलग होते हैं, और उन पैरामीटर्स के बेसिस पर जब हम बच्चे को इवेल्युएट करते हैं कलेक्टिवली, दे आर कॉल्ड रूब्रिक्स, right? Now, even on one parameter, the child might have different understanding. For example, understanding of the concept, if this is one of the parameter, some student might have very minimal understanding. कुछ बच्चों की partial understanding हो सकती है, कुछ बच्चों की complete understanding हो सकती है, कुछ बच्चों की complete plus some extra understanding भी हो सकती है. So based on their understanding, those children will be assigned levels. उनको levels में हम evaluate करते हैं. For example, if somebody is showing some sort of understanding but in-depth understanding nahi hai, we will say the child is at intermediate stage. This is not to discriminate students, this is to know, this is to identify the students learning gaps, ताकि उन पर काम किया जा सके, level 2 से level 3, level 3 से level 4 पर बच्चे को लाया जा सके. So in order to work on the students, we firstly need to know about their learning gaps, where they are lacking, right? A project work will have different parameters because a child might be good at one aspect, might not be that good at some other aspect. हो सकता है बच्चा रिसर्च में अच्छा है, हो सकता है बच्चा एविडेंस कलेक्ट करने में अच्छा है, बट उसको अच्छे से प्रेजेंट नहीं कर पाता है. तो आपके अलग अलग पैरामीटर्स पर अलग अलग लेवलिंग होगी. तो हो सकता है प्रेजेंटेशन वाले पे बच्चा इंटरमीडिएट या बिगिनर ही है, बट रिसर्च उसने बहुत अच्छी की है, रिसर्च में वो बहुत कॉम्पिटेंट, So you will specifically know from the result of project work where the child lacks, where the student lacks, what are the learning gaps, where do we need to work on those students, right? So this is the project work. This is how it looks. This is the structure of competency based project work. These are also finalized. These are also created by teachers, reviewed by us, and finalized and uploaded on the resource pool. So these can also be accessed. Obviously, there will be multiple options when it comes to the project works, and हम हर एक concept के लिए, हर एक chapter के लिए project work करवाना school में is not possible. So the teacher can pick whenever they want to give any project work to the students, maybe in vacation or any other period. They can pick the project of their choice. जो भी वो pick करना चाहते हैं amongst the given options, they can pick any project. Any questions till now? Before we move on to competency based assessment, any question on competency based learning? The resources, the program, the structures, the stages. Thumbs up if you want to move ahead. Yes, send presentation. Obviously, ma'am or sir, once this session is completed, we will share all the, so we are going to have a discussion on another agenda. So whatever documents will be required along with the PPTs will be shared with you on the mail. Okay, who would like to share their idea or understanding about the program competency based assessment? Competency based assessment क्या है? Competency based assessment program क्या है? दोनों के बारे में आप बता सकते हैं. We are 50 plus participants, so I would like if anybody would like to share whatever their understanding is. Anybody? What do we understand by competency based assessments? Why are they needed? Or have we do we have any idea about this program?
Sir, projects are already there in the link. So the teacher can take up any project and introduce based on the concept. Whenever it is feasible for the teacher, and they can assess as per level and how about their understanding level. Okay, and then evaluation will be scientifically done by the teacher. So it may be for the holiday homework, anything like that. They can do and they can assess as per the level of understanding. They can assess, evaluate, and they can segregate the students accordingly, and they can again PBL they can frame accordingly as per their assessment understanding levels to achieve the targets with the required any modification of the CBL also.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So, ma'am has mentioned project work. Obviously, project work and lesson plans are resources of competency-based learning program. Competency-based assessment is the program जहां पर हम assessments में क्या change करते हैं, assessments को कैसे design करना है. See, obviously, if we are teaching in a competency-based approach, अगर हम पढ़ाते समय competency build कर रहे हैं, develop कर रहे हैं, then we will also modify our assessments accordingly as well. Right? Through our assessments only we will be able to know whether those competencies have been built in the students or not. हमने पढ़ा तो दिया है, but क्या बच्चा उन competencies को use करके assessments को questions को solve कर पा रहा है या नहीं? That we can only check if the assessments are competency based. So this training session is yet to be done in Chennai, but the structure is very similar to competency based learning program. It starts with a 5-day training session. Subject wise teachers को train किया जाता है again on competency based assessment this time. किस तरह के formats हो सकते हैं, कौन सी structures होंगी, कौन से quality parameters होंगे. See, we've been creating assessment for long time. Teachers are creating assessment for long time. There are a lot of assessments available in books, on internets, on other sources as well, right? But competency based assessment different कैसे है, और जो ऑलरेडी एग्जिस्टिंग असेसमेंट है उनको कॉम्पिटेंसी बेस्ड कैसे बनाया जा सकता है. कैसे ट्रांसफॉर्म किया जा सकता है, कौन से क्वालिटी पैरामीटर्स को हमको ध्यान में रखना है, कैसे हम बच्चे को असेस करेंगे वेयर द चाइल्ड इज लैकिंग स्पेसिफिकली। ऑब्वियसली बच्चे ने क्वेश्चन को आंसर गलत किया है, पर गलत क्यों किया है, कौन सा वो लर्निंग गैप है, वो भी हम असेस करते हैं, वो भी हम डिस्कस करते हैं ड्यूरिंग दिस 5 day ट्रेनिंग सेशन, right? So all those things are discussed in details during this 5 day session. After the session, very similar to CBL, a task is allocated to the teachers. Some assessment items are given for them to create. एक concept उनको allocate किया जाता है. Some other details are also mentioned. कुछ learning objectives indicators दिए जाते हैं ताकि teachers को कुछ idea भी हो कि किस तरह के items हमको बनाने हैं. So using all those details, there is format shared as well. Using all those materials and details, the teachers complete the allocation task, which is the third step. So assessment item creation, again, very similar to lesson plans. The process is very similar. They will create assessment, teachers will create assessment, they can take the help of their peer teachers. Once the assessments are created, they will send it back to us. We will review the assessment. We have a team for different subject wise teams. They will review the assessment. They will see if the assessment is fulfilling all the criteria that we have discussed in the session, right? वो competency based item है नहीं है, किस competency के साथ align हो रहा है. इन सभी चीजों को रिव्यू करने के बाद if there are some little changes needed to be done, those modifications are done from our side. If there are some major modifications, if there are some major reworks that needs to be done, we share it back to the teacher along with the appropriate feedback. तो feedback जाता है कि इस क्वेश्चन में ये इश्यू है, इस क्वेश्चन को इस तरह से मॉडिफाई किया जा सकता है ताकि टीचर्स कमिंग जो भी एलोकेशन टास्क होंगे, जो भी टास्क एलोकेटेड होंगे, उन पर भी सिमिलर फीडबैक्स को अप्लाई कर पाए, राइट? Again, if they need any guidance, if they need any clarity on anything, if they have any doubts, any questions, any concerns or queries, they can always ask for need-based session and we can address those questions. So following this, we have 2 day implementation training. So 2 day implementation training mein we also discuss how to use this competency based assessment. Again, some of the teachers might not be part of that 5 day session. So for all those TGTs, this implementation training becomes even more crucial because they get to know कि क्या है competency based assessment और इनको कैसे use करना है, कैसे utilize करना है to evaluate students in their classroom. Right, and that is the final step, which is implementation. Assessments create हो गए हैं, you can take it from the resource pool. If you want to modify, आप modify भी कर सकते हैं. Same with the lesson plans. It's not necessary कि whatever you are picking from the resource pool, you have to follow it stepwise. It might not be practical possible all the time as well. राइट, सो इफ यू फील कि आपको कुछ मॉडिफिकेशंस करनी है एज अ टीचर, यू हैव डिफरेंट रिसोर्सेज और आपके पास टाइम कम है, आपको कुछ और मॉडिफिकेशन करनी है, यू कैन कंडक्ट दिस एक्टिविटी इन स्लाइटली डिफरेंट वे, यू आर वेरी मच ओपन टू डू सो, एंड सेम इन केस ऑफ असेसमेंट एज वेल, right? So on the bottom, because this session is not yet done in Chennai region, so इसका progress data Chennai region के लिए अभी generate नहीं हुआ है, but at the bottom you can see the number of assessments item created by TGTs across KVS region. So more than 39,000 SRTs and more than very close to 14,000 CRTs have been created. So SRT and CRT basically are two different formats. हम आगे इसको और डिस्कस करेंगे. तो दो तरह के फॉर्मेट्स में असेसमेंट आइटम्स बन रहे हैं, कॉम्पिटेंसी बेस्ड असेसमेंट आइटम बन रहे हैं, रिसोर्स पूल में जा रहे हैं. फर्स्टली द एसआरटी. एसआरटी मींस सिलेक्टेड रिस्पांस टाइप. सिलेक्टेड रिस्पांस टाइप में आपके एमसीक्यूज आते हैं, वेयर द चाइल्ड हैज टू बेसिकली select their response amongst the given option. Right? CRT is constructive response type. Constructive response type में the child, the student is expected to construct a response. तो ये open ended question है जहां पर बच्चा अपना आंसर खुद से लिखता है, कोई options नहीं है जो बच्चे को select करना है. So these two are the formats which are used to create competency based assessment item. We will see a sample of each of the format. For now, if there is any question regarding this program, the structure and the stages of competency based assessment program, please feel free to ask question. Any question regarding this program? If no question, give a thumbs up. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's move on to the resources of this program. So as we have discussed, just like CBL resource, CBA resource pool also has CBA item. There is some error. This is CBA resources, not CBL. So CBA resources में आपके assessment items रहेंगे. Structure is very similar to the resource pool that you have seen for CBL as well. Chapter name mentioned है, concepts mentioned है, availability in resource pool mentioned है, and then SRT की files अलग से placed है, CRT की files अलग से placed है. तो ये जो दो अलग अलग फॉर्मेट्स हैं उनकी अलग अलग फाइल्स हैं, राइट. फॉर एग्जांपल if I am looking for assessments for chapter 5 prime time of mathematics concept factors and multiples, मैंने अपनी क्लास में factors and multiples पढ़ा दिया है, अभी मुझे इसकी assessment conduct करवानी है अपनी क्लास में. So I can have a look at the resource pool if there are any items, if there are any questions pertaining to this concepts are already available. तो आप availability से yes or no से उसको देख सकते हैं. If they are available, you can take those items, you can take those questions and use it to evaluate your students. राइट. सो ओपन एंडेड क्वेश्चन का अलग फाइल है और एमसीक्यूज का अलग फाइल है, दोनों क्वेश्चंस को आप यूज कर सकते हैं. सिमिलर फॉर अदर सब्जेक्ट्स एज वेल. Now, the formats that we've been talking about, the MCQs and CRT, the SRT and CRT, they are the resources you are getting from the resource pool. इन दोनों ही formats की अलग-अलग files होंगी. Let's have a look at their formats briefly. सो जैसे आपके लेसन प्लान का एक स्ट्रक्चर था, टेम्पलेट था, वैसे ही आपके असेसमेंट आइटम्स का भी एक स्ट्रक्चर है, एक टेम्पलेट है. दिस इज टू मेंटेन द स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन एंड कंसिस्टेंसी अक्रॉस केवीएस रीजन. सी वी हैव डिफरेंट रीजन्स, वी हैव डिफरेंट पीपल, डिफरेंट ब्रेन्स वर्किंग ऑन द कंटेंट. तो कई बार ऐसा होता है कि सब्जेक्टिविटी कम्स इनटू द पिक्चर, right? But to maintain standardization and consistency, a common format, a common template is allocated to every teacher irrespective of the region. राइट. तो जब आप रिसोर्स पूल पर जाएंगे आपको वहां पर फॉर्मेट को लेकर कुछ भी इनकंसिस्टेंसी नहीं दिखेगी. एवरी क्वेश्चन, एवरी असेसमेंट आइटम विल बी इन वन फॉर्मेट, एवरी लेसन प्लान विल बी इन वन फॉर्मेट, राइट. फॉर एग्जाम्पल जब हम दिस इज फॉर एमसीक्यू आइटम. जब एमसीक्यू आइटम के हम टेम्पलेट की बात करते हैं तो दिस इज द टेम्पलेट दैट एवरी टीचर इज गोइंग टू फॉलो व्हेनेवर दे आर क्रिएटिंग एमसीक्यू आइटम्स. एक एमसीक्यू आइटम्स के टेम्पलेट में बहुत सी डिटेल्स रहेंगी विच गिव्स यू इंडिकेशन अबाउट दैट आइटम. कुछ ना कुछ डिटेल्स उस आइटम के बारे में बताती हैं वो. फॉर एग्जांपल लर्निंग आउटकम क्या अचीव हो रहा है, लर्निंग इंडिकेटर बच्चे की कौन सी लर्निंग इंडिकेट हो रही है, कौन सा कॉन्सेप्ट है. सो ऑल दोज डिटेल्स विच आर वेरी सिग्निफिकेंट दे आर इंक्लूडेड इन द टेम्पलेट, राइट. अदर देन दैट यू कैन ऑल्सो गेट कि बच्चा क्या गलती कर रहा है इफ दे आर पिकिंग अ इनकरेक्ट ऑप्शन. सो दैट डिटेल इज ऑल्सो मेंशन्ड हियर. तो आपके हर एक टेम्पलेट में बहुत सी सिग्निफिकेंट इंफॉर्मेशन जो है दैट इज इंक्लूडेड, राइट. सो थ्रू आउट द रिसोर्स पूल, whatever file you are picking, for example if you're picking any file for MCQ item, this is the format which will be uniform, right. Now the other format is the CRT, is the open-ended format. Let's have a look at that as well. Let's open it for maths this time. So some of the fields will be similar obviously. आपका ग्रेड, चैप्टर, कॉन्सेप्ट, लर्निंग आउटकम, ये फील्ड सिमिलर होंगी आपके दोनों ही फॉर्मेट्स में, ओपन एंडेड क्वेश्चंस में भी और एमसीक्यूज में भी. बट सम ऑफ द फील्ड्स माइट बी डिफरेंट. फॉर एग्जांपल वहां पर आपके पास ऑप्शंस थे, यहाँ ऑप्शंस नहीं होंगे. यहाँ पर आपके पास रूब्रिक्स होंगे, स्कोरिंग गाइड होगा. तो बच्चे के रिस्पॉन्स को किस बेसिस पर इवेल्युएट करना है. अगर 3 मार्क का क्वेश्चन है तो किस केस में 1 मार्क्स मिलेंगे, किस केस में 2 मार्क्स मिलेंगे, किस केस में हाफ मार्क्स मिलेगा इफ देयर इज अ पॉसिबिलिटी. वो सब डिटेल में मेंशन्ड होगा इन योर स्कोरिंग, राइट. अगेन दिस इज द फॉर्मेट फॉर सीआरटी आइटम, ओपन एंडेड आइटम, एंड दिस विल बी यूनिफॉर्म नो मैटर व्हाट फाइल आर यू पिकिंग फॉर एनी ऑफ द सब्जेक्ट. आप किसी भी सब्जेक्ट की फाइल पिक करेंगे ये फॉर्मेट आपको यूनिफॉर्म मिलेगा. Any questions regarding the format of the resources? Any questions regarding the SRT, CRT, MCQs? Any doubt, any concern, any question? Before we move on to the next project, so this was all about competency-based assessment. You can write your question in the chat box as well if
Sir, how to get these resources? Links are provided or available on app?
so sir, resource pool, the entire resource pool along with all the other resources is provided to the school. तो वहां से आप उसको एक्सेस कर सकते हैं। बेसिकली फोल्डर्स हैं, फोल्डर्स का लिंक आपको प्रोवाइड किया जाएगा। उन फोल्डर्स के अंदर ही आपको शीट्स मिलेंगी अलग अलग सब्जेक्ट्स की, और हर एक शीट में आपके अलग अलग रिसोर्सेज जो हैं वो लिंक की फॉर्म में लगाए गए हैं।
नहीं,
राइट,
टीचर्स को
तो
प्रोवाइड कर दिया आप लोगों ने? टीचर्स को प्रोवाइड कर रखे हैं ये लिंक्स जो भी?
सॉरी सर,
हैव यू प्रोवाइडेड दीज लिंक्स टू द टीचर्स, रिसोर्स पूल लिंक्स?
नहीं सर, टीचर्स को प्रोवाइड नहीं होता है। दीज ऑल दीज मटेरियल्स आर प्रोवाइडेड टू द प्रिंसिपल्स और टू द स्कूल्स.
अच्छा,
So I think because competency-based assessment is yet to be initiated in your region, so that might be the reason you haven't received these links yet.
ओके सर, थैंक यू।
Yeah. Okay. Now let's talk about the other project, the other program apart from competency-based learning and competency-based assessment, the project inclusion. Now I would like to know about this program from any of the VPs present here. What do we understand by this program? Have we seen it getting implemented? What are its stages? Anybody? क्या है प्रोजेक्ट इंक्लूजन प्रोग्राम? क्या पर्पस है इसका? क्या स्टेप्स हैं इसके? क्या स्टेजेस हैं इसके? एनीबडी? Any views about this program? Any whatever your understanding is? शैलेंद्र सर, राम कुमार सर, वंदना मैम, अनीता मैम, एनीबडी? अरुण सर, प्रियाली मैम, रीना मैम, जयप्रदा मैम, प्रोजेक्ट इंक्लूजन के बारे में कुछ शेयर करना चाहेंगे आप? व्हाट इज प्रोजेक्ट इंक्लूजन? व्हाट इज दिस
Uh,
प्रोग्राम ऑल अबाउट?
Very good afternoon, sir.
गुड
To the
आफ्टरनून सर.
I've got little knowledge about this project inclusion. Project inclusion here we deal with inclusive education. Students of different abilities, like specially able children, they are taken care in this. They are assessed and their development is taken care. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Very rightly mentioned. So project inclusion basically aims for an inclusive classroom जहाँ पर all the students can be accommodated irrespective of their difficulty in learning. Some of the students might have some difficulty in learning. So project inclusion aims for that inclusive environments that all the students can be accommodated within one classroom under one roof. Right? Now, what is the structure of project inclusion? Let's quickly have a look at that. So on your left side, the flow chart that is displayed, it basically shows the structure of the program project inclusion. It starts with an orientation session जहां पर teachers को on board किया जाता है, उनको project inclusion के बारे में थोड़ा बताया जाता है, and we basically have an app called PI app, a mobile app, and we the teachers are basically told about that particular app, and then this program is divided into three major phases: phase 1, phase 2 and phase 3. Phase 1 is a self-paced course. तो जो मोबाइल ऐप का हम मेंशन कर रहे हैं, in that mobile app there are multiple modules. There are close to 17 modules. So the teacher has to complete those modules. These are basically 20 minutes module, close to 20 minutes videos in every module, and the teacher can watch it at any time according to their pace. So they have to complete those modules. At every module, there are a set of assessments that the teacher has to take. Once all the modules are completed, assessments are taken, a certification is given to that teacher for completion of phase 1. If the teacher scores above a certain benchmark, there is a different certification of high achiever certification. Right? Now, once the phase 1 is completed, the phase 2 includes the screening of the students. तो फेज 2 में टीचर्स जो भी डाउटफुल स्टूडेंट्स हैं उनकी स्क्रीनिंग करते हैं. हाउ दे डू इट थ्रू दी पीआई ऐप ओनली. पीआई ऐप में क्वेश्चनियर्स होता है, उस क्वेश्चनियर्स में जो भी क्वेश्चंस है उनको आंसर करते हैं टीचर्स विद रिस्पेक्ट टू दैट स्टूडेंट हुएवर दे आर स्क्रीनिंग. एंड some of the doubtfuls get cleared, some of the doubtfuls get filtered out in the initial screening. So the screening also contains 3 different stages. The phase 2 has 3 different stages. The first one is initial screening, जहां पर कुछ students filtered out हो जाते हैं. Those students who are still doubtful, they move on to the second stage. In the second stage, there are some even more informative questions which are asked, and the teacher answers all that information about the students, and there is a screening report that gets generated after the second stage. राइट, उस स्क्रीनिंग रिपोर्ट को हम आगे जाकर देखने वाले हैं, डिस्कस करने वाले हैं. उसमें स्टूडेंट्स की जो भी इंफॉर्मेशन टीचर ने क्वेश्चनर के टाइम पे रिस्पॉन्ड की है, ऑल दोज इंफॉर्मेशंस आर इंक्लूडेड इन दैट स्क्रीनिंग रिपोर्ट. Right, after that those students are moved on to the third stage, which is advanced screening. Advanced screening gives you exact idea about the specific difficulty that the student is encountering. तो क्या कंडीशन है, क्या डिफिकल्टी बच्चा फेस कर रहा है, that you get to know after the advanced screening. Right, so once you know that, what should be the next step? Once you know that out of your class there are 3 to 4 students who are facing this difficulty in learning, what should be the next step? Can we have separate classes for those students? Is it possible to do so? Anybody? Yes or no, please? No. Yes. So हम अलग से classes नहीं ले सकते हैं. It won't be practically possible to take separate classes. So what happens is, once those specific conditions or difficulty in learnings are known, there is an intervention plan that is generated with respect to that student. राइट, तो पीआई ऐप पे आपको इंटरवेंशन प्लान मिलता है. दैट इंटरवेंशन प्लान इज नॉट अ सेपरेट लेसन प्लान और सब्जेक्ट स्पेसिफिक लेसन प्लान. ऐसा नहीं है कि अलग अलग टीचर्स के लिए अलग अलग सब्जेक्ट स्पेसिफिक लेसन प्लान आएगा. इंटरवेंशन प्लान इज बेसिकली अ ग्रुप ऑफ स्ट्रेटजीज दैट यू कैन अक्वायर टू अकोमोडेट दैट स्टूडेंट इन योर रेगुलर क्लासरूम. तो आप अपने क्लासरूम में क्या चेंजेस कर सकते हैं, कैसे उसको मॉडिफाई कर सकते हैं, कौन कौन सी छोटी छोटी प्रैक्टिसेस आप कर सकते हैं, so that those students can also be accommodated in that classroom. Those strategies are mentioned in the intervention plan. Right, if the teacher feels that there is some challenge, there is some question, there is some lack of clarity or concern, they can always attend the session. We have periodic PI session that the teacher can attend and ask their queries, and we will definitely address that. राइट, सो दिस इज द स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ द प्रोग्राम प्रोजेक्ट इंक्लूजन. ये डिफरेंट स्टेजेस हैं जो प्रोजेक्ट इंक्लूजन प्रोग्राम्स की यहाँ पर डिस्प्ले की गई है. एनी क्वेश्चन रिलेटेड टू दिस, और शैल वी मूव अहेड टू द प्रोग्रेस ऑफ चेन्नई रीजन इन दिस प्रोग्राम? Okay, let's quickly see the data for Chennai region when it comes to the program project inclusion. So far for Chennai region, 2371 teachers have already registered in PIF, और उसमें से 1933 have already completed phase 1. तो modules complete कर लिया है इतने teachers, right? Across KVS region, more than 34,000 teachers have done the screening of their students. Out of this number, 1200 teachers have done the screening in the Chennai region, right? 1,72,000, more than 1,72,000 students have been screened across KVS region. Out of this number, close to 8,000 students are screened in the Chennai region. इनमें से वो स्टूडेंट्स जो हाई रिस्क पर पाए गए, दे आर 2,934. नंबर ऑफ टीचर्स जिन्होंने एडवांस स्क्रीनिंग कंडक्ट की, 912. जिन स्टूडेंट्स की एडवांस स्क्रीनिंग हुई है आर मोर देन 3,300. एंड इन स्टूडेंट्स के लिए जो हाई रिस्क पर हैं, who have some difficulty in learning, the count of intervention plan that has been shared by the PIF just for the Chennai region is more than 63,000. Right? For one student, for one individual, there can be more than one plan depending upon the difficulty in the learning that the student is facing. वो अलग अलग strategies हो सकती हैं. So एक से ज्यादा plans भी PIF suggest करते हैं for one student. Right? Any question? Okay, let's have a look at the resources for the program project inclusion. So, phase 2 की बात करते हुए we discussed that there are different stages in within the phase 2 as well. Initial screening, and then at the second screening report is generated. So what is the screening report? Let's have a look at that. So this is how a screening report looks like. Apart from the usual information, the background information of the students, which is mentioned here in this box, then there are some classroom observation. These are all the observation which teacher has responded to while answering the questionnaire during the screening. तो जो भी टीचर ने रिस्पॉन्ड किया है एक बच्चे के लिए, जो भी इंफॉर्मेशन क्वेश्चनर के टाइम पे रिस्पॉन्ड की है, उस इंफॉर्मेशन को कंपाइल करके स्क्रीनिंग रिपोर्ट में इस तरह से डिस्प्ले किया जाता है. Right, so you can see screening 1 के time पे the teacher responded difficulty in identification of words and symbols, struggles to identify mathematical symbols. Then advanced screening के time पर confused in reading similar looking words. So these are the observation which teacher responding while screening that student. Apart from this, on the right side, you can see strengths and abilities of the students are also listed. Academically, see one student, as I already discussed, one student can be brilliant in one aspect, while the student might struggle in some other aspect, right? The child faces difficulty in identifying symbols, but the child is a visual learner, right? So these are the strengths and the abilities with respect to academic performance. What are the interests that the student shows? What are the strengths of the student in general? What are the observation of teacher when it comes to the temperament of the student? So all those observation are listed in this screening report, which gets generated during phase 2. Right? Now, apart from the screening report, once the advanced screening is completed, once you get to know about the high risk students, the students at high risk, and the difficulty in learning that they are facing, you also get the access to student specific intervention plan. Now, for example, this is for the condition ADHD. In this intervention plan, the concern is listed. What is your concern? And then with respect to that concern, what is the goal that we are aiming for? So if the concern is speaks before question is finished, we are aiming for able to wait for their turn to answer a question in class. Right? So इस concern के लिए और इस goal के लिए जिसको हम aim कर रहे हैं, what changes can we do? What little practices can we acquire in order to achieve this goal that is mentioned under accommodation and steps to teach? Right? For example, accommodation में you can see pairing with a peer who can be a good role model and has a appropriate behavior. Right? तो कैसे accommodate किया जा सकता है? Also, पढ़ाते समय क्या changes किए जा सकते हैं? What little changes can be made while you are teaching? So all those strategies are mentioned in this intervention plan. Right? So teacher can pick the intervention strategies. They can integrate very simple strategies. They can integrate in their regular lesson plans. For example, if they're taking competency-based lesson plan, they can integrate these practices and they can accommodate students with difficulty in learning as well in their class. Any questions? This was all about the resources of PI, project inclusion. If you have any question, please feel free to ask. Give me a thumbs up if you can move ahead. Okay, thank you. Okay. So CBL is already getting implemented. PI is already getting implemented in your region. CBA it soon will be conducted the session and the allocation of that task will also start. Now, what are the questions? What are the challenges that you might have observed or that you feel can be the possible challenges, which might be the roadblocks when it comes to implementation of these programs? कौन-कौन से challenges हो सकते हैं या आपने observe किए हैं, which can act as a roadblock for these programs?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I've done the first phase, if I'm not wrong, the 17 modules. Am I right, sir? Project inclusion.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yes, followed by that, I'm yet to do the screening.
Hanji.
But then, do we need to take the parents' consent when we go about the screening, sir?
You can talk to the parents about it, although I think it's very harmless. It will only, you can absolutely have this discussion with the parents. It will only help you to improve your teaching practices for the class teacher, I am saying, for the subject teachers, and they can accommodate those students better. So I don't think parents will have any objection in that. I mean, it's your observation that you're putting in the questionnaire. It's your observation of the classroom. Any other challenge that you feel might be the roadblock in effective implementation?
I keep wondering if I'm really professionally trained to go about the screening, or should we take the help of a special educator, sir?
Ma'am, were you part of the orientation session of the project inclusion?
You mean project inclusion, sir?
हाँ, so प्रोजेक्ट इंक्लूजन प्रोग्राम के ओरिएंटेशन सेशंस हैं होते हैं जो ऑनलाइन हो चुके हैं ओनली फॉर एग्जांपल
Yes, sir.
व्हेन वी वर टॉकिंग अबाउट यस so when we were talking about this onboarding session, this is the orientation session which happens in which everybody is told everything is told, and after that if you have completed the phase 1, you must be already familiar, you must be already sensitized about the diverse learning needs of the student, right? So you are capable enough to move on to the phase 2. But
Fine,
if
sir.
you still have some questions, if you still have some doubt, concern, as I said, there is a periodic session that we take when it comes to project inclusion. You can always participate in that project, in that meeting. जो
Thank you,
भी
sir.
क्वेश्चन आपके रहते हैं, ग्रे एरियाज हैं, कंसर्न्स हैं, वो आप वहां पर पूछ सकते हैं. स्पेसिफिकली केसेस भी आप वहां पर पूछ सकते हैं.
Thank you, sir.
Right? Okay. So let's quickly discuss because we have very less time left. Let's quickly discuss the possible roadblocks when it comes to implementation of effective implementation of these programs. The first one being the limited awareness of the program. Now, some of you might be already familiar with these programs, while the awareness might be little different when it comes to the people who are playing a very crucial role on ground, the teachers. Again, the awareness might be different in different cases. तो हो सकता है कहीं पर अच्छे से understanding हो, thorough understanding हो, thorough awareness हो, while at some cases there might be some gaps when it comes to understanding of these models, of these programs. इनका ultimate aim क्या है, stages क्या है, करना क्या है, right? So that limited awareness also leads for that ineffective implementation. Secondly, inconsistent implementation. As we talked about the 5-day training session, so there are only few teachers who participates in that 5-day training session from each school, right? There is only one coordinator or two coordinators for two different programs. But it's their responsibility, obviously, to transfer whatever they have learned, whatever their knowledge is, whatever their gathering is from that session with all of the peer teachers. But still, sometimes during that transfer, there is a gap, there is a learning gap. राइट सो दैट विल रिजल्ट इन इनकंसिस्टेंट इम्प्लीमेंटेशन. तो हो सकता है कि एक टीचर कॉम्पिटेंसी बेस्ड असेसमेंट की क्वालिटी पैरामीटर्स को अच्छे से जानता है क्योंकि उसने सेशन अटेंड किया है और अच्छे से अटेंड किया है और वो अपनी क्लास में उसको बहुत इफेक्टिवली इंप्लीमेंट करवाएगा, while some other teacher might still not be aware about those principle and might be implementing this not that effectively. उसका रिजल्ट ये होगा कि अ स्टूडेंट विल एक्सपीरियंस डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ क्लासरूम्स. एक कॉम्पिटेंसी बेस्ड लर्निंग जहां पर अच्छे से इंप्लीमेंट हो रही है एक क्लासरूम में, वहां पर उस स्टूडेंट का एक्सपीरियंस अलग होगा और जहां पर इनइफेक्टिवली इंप्लीमेंट हो रही है वहां पर स्टूडेंट का एक्सपीरियंस अलग होगा. सो दिस कैन ऑल्सो बी अ रोड ब्लॉक इन टर्म्स ऑफ इनइफेक्टिव इंप्लीमेंटेशन ऑफ दिस प्रोग्राम्स. Finally, the insufficient monitoring and timely intervention to bring everyone on the same page. Consistency लाने के लिए monitoring is very important. Monitoring and timely intervention wherever we feel that there is some need of feedback or there is some need of hand holding या कुछ suggestion देने की जरूरत है, ideas exchange करने की जरूरत है. All those can be done after monitoring only. Insufficient monitoring can result into inconsistent implementation. Right? So monitoring is a very crucial role, and that is the role of the school leadership, which is why VPs are part of this session. So if you want to monitor the teachers, how they are implementing these programs, it is firstly very important to know the role and responsibilities of the teacher. Right? So let's go through the roles and responsibilities of the teacher quickly. So we have majorly divided the roles and responsibility into a few major categories. The first one being the preparedness. Now, preparedness, what comes in preparedness is whenever, okay, the second one is implementation, the third one is evidence, and the fourth one is documentation. We will go one by one. So when we talk about preparedness of a teacher, जब भी आप कॉम्पिटेंसी बेस्ड क्लास कंडक्ट करवाने जा रहे हैं, आपने एक लेसन प्लान क्रिएट किया है या लेसन प्लान आपने पिक किया है रिसोर्स पूल से, इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू फर्स्ट गो थ्रू द इंटायर लेसन प्लान। उस लेसन प्लान में क्या रिसोर्सेज चाहिए होंगे, क्या स्टेप्स चाहिए होंगे, कितना टाइम चाहिए, ग्रुप्स बनाने हैं नहीं बनाने हैं, तो क्लियर थरो अंडरस्टैंडिंग होनी जरूरी है बिफोर कंडक्टिंग दैट लेसन, राइट। Now, once you have gone through the lesson plan, also complete the lesson plan organizer before teaching. हमने lesson plan organizer का एक sample देखा, उसमें जो भी details थी, those details can directly be fetched from that lesson plan. तो concept, आपका learning outcome, pedagogical strategies, assessment type, skills and observation, skills and values, वो सभी details जो है before teaching fill होनी चाहिए in your lesson plan organizer. That is also responsibility of the teacher. Right? When it comes to PI, complete all the phases. Sorry. So project inclusion के सभी inclusion के सभी phases को complete करना, whether it's the completion of all the modules in the assessment phase 1, बच्चों की screening हो या फिर intervention plan का usage हो, that is also the teacher's responsibility. Right? Conduct student screening using the PI app, as we have discussed. This is one of the phase of the project inclusion program. This has to be completed by the teacher as well. Right? If the teacher is designated as the coordinator of the program, they have to be part of the follow-up meetings with the Shri Aurobindo Society team. Okay. Now, apart from this, let's move on to the second major responsibility, that is implementation. So preparedness में we saw the teacher has to be ready before delivering a class. Now, implementation means delivering the class effectively. तो competency based lesson plan कि जो भी क्राइटेरियाज आप सेशन में सुनते हैं या फिर आप जो भी क्लियर इंस्ट्रक्शंस आपको लेसन प्लान में दी गई है, उसको इफेक्टिव वे में इंप्लीमेंट करवाना इज द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ क्लास टीचर। Right? Conduct competency-based assessment. We just saw in the competency-based assessment program, there are some samples in both the formats, open-ended and MCQs. So, for example, आपने एक concept खत्म किया है, photosynthesis का concept आपने पढ़ा दिया है. Now, to know whether the students have learned that effectively या फिर बच्चों के कुछ learning gaps हैं, you need to conduct competency-based assessment of that concept. वो assessment आप resource pool से भी ले सकते हैं, आप खुद भी create कर सकते हैं, but you have to make sure they are competency-based. Right? Integrate project inclusion intervention strategies. As we discussed earlier, we don't need to have a separate classroom for those students who are facing some learning difficulty. जो भी simple strategies हैं, उसको हम lesson plan में ही integrate करके अपनी class को accordingly modify करेंगे, so that all the students can be accommodated with one class. Right? रिसोर्स पूल में जो भी आपका CBL का मटेरियल है, CBA का मटेरियल है, उसको यूज करना और उसको अडेप्ट करना इज ऑल्सो टीचर्स रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी। Right? If you want to adapt it, if you want to modify it, that is completely teacher's call. Resource different है, timing different है, activities का environment different है, आप उसके accordingly modify भी कर सकते हैं. Right? Create and contribute new teaching resource when assigned. Now, it's very important, as some of you have already mentioned, that कुछ concepts के लिए अभी lesson plans नहीं है, कुछ concepts के लिए CBA assessment items नहीं है. So, whenever the task is allocated to a teacher, it is very important to complete that task on time. Right? Also, even if we do have one version of a lesson plan for one concept, it's always important. It's always a luxury to have more than one. Right? तो ज्यादा lesson plans होंगे तो ज्यादा better choice रहेगा teachers के पास to pick from those lesson plans. Okay, let's now move on from implementation to evidence. So there is a folder called evidence gallery which will be shared with all the teachers. They have to maintain the evidence gallery, whatever they are teaching. For example, if they are conducting an activity while teaching a concept in their class, they can click a few pictures. बच्चे experiment कर रहे हैं या बच्चे एक दूसरे से interact कर रहे हैं, वो कुछ pictures या videos भी record कर सकते हैं, and they can upload it on the evidence gallery in Google Drive. Right? प्रोजेक्ट्स की जब हम बात कर रहे थे, अपलोड 1 टू बेस्ट प्रोजेक्ट वर्क जो हम बात कर रहे थे, उनका भी 1-2 बेस्ट प्रोजेक्ट वर्क्स का पिक्चर्स और स्कैन्ड कॉपीज अपलोड की जा सकती है पर क्लास पर सेक्शन, right? CBA samples, the CBA items that you have used, that you have conducted, or that you have created in your classroom, that needs to be also be uploaded on the evidence gallery on the Google Drive, right? ऑल्सो जब आपने कॉम्पिटेंसी बेस्ड असेसमेंट कंडक्ट किया तो बच्चों के जो रिस्पॉन्सेज है उसमें भी टॉप 2 रिस्पॉन्सेज, टॉप 2 आंसर शीट्स और बॉटम 2 आंसर शीट्स needs to be uploaded in the evidence gallery, right? So these are all the evidences that needs to be uploaded in the Google Drive. Next is the documentation. Sorry. Record reflections and attach CBL, CBA reports in the monthly CBL, CBA report. Now, what is this monthly CBL, CBA report? So all these documents जो भी report की form में है, जहां पर भी आपको कुछ record करना है, whether the teacher has to record something or the VPs have to record something or the principals have to record something, ये सभी documents का format हमारी तरफ से दिया जाएगा. There is a document that will be provided at the end of this session. So उस document में teacher को अपनी CBL और CBA की implementation की reflections और जो भी उसके उनके ऑब्जर्वेशन है उसको रिकॉर्ड करना है, right? Maintain soft and hard copies for all the reports for submission to the vice principal. So it is the teacher's responsibility कि जो reports में उन्होंने अपना observation और reflections और data रिकॉर्ड किया है उनकी सॉफ्ट कॉपी और हार्ड कॉपी वीपी सर या मैम को सबमिट की जाए, right? Then also prepare and submit a quarterly report including all 3 programs. जिन 3 programs की हमने बात की है, CBL, CBA और PI की implementation को लेकर जो भी observation है, जो भी criterias हैं, जो भी data है, reflection है, उनको लेकर एक quarterly report जो है वो prepare और submit करवाना भी एक teacher की responsibility है. All these reports, as I have mentioned earlier, will be provided by us. The teacher has to simply fill whatever their reflection or observations are. Right? Any questions till now? Any questions? Okay, let's quickly move on to the leadership role for effective implementation. So when we were talking about the roadblocks that might be coming in the way of effective implementation, one was insufficient monitoring. So monitoring is very important. And what is the leadership role? School leadership role, which is vice principals and principals for us. Effective implementation mein, what are the role that we play? Let's see. So just like the teacher, the leadership role is also divided into few categories. The first one being the observation. So we have all now got the idea of the programs. Competency-based learning kya hai, competency-based assessment kya hai, PI kya hai. So it is very important for the VPs to conduct 2 to 3 classroom observation per TGT every month using the observation checklist. So observation checklist will be provided to you. You just have to go to the classrooms and जो भी आप observe कर रहे हैं accordingly आपको उस checklist में fill करना है. Right? You have multiple criterias. You can see if the students are interacting, if the students are experiencing something, if the students are enjoying the class, if there is enough engagement between the teachers and the students, if every student is being accommodated effectively, right? कौन सी इफेक्टिव प्रैक्टिसेस आप देख सकते हैं कि किसी कॉन्सेप्ट को पढ़ाने के लिए इफेक्टिव प्रैक्टिस यूज की जा रही है, नहीं की जा रही है, कोई और पेडागोजिकल स्ट्रेटजी यूज की जा सकती थी क्या, राइट? सो ऑल दोस ऑब्जर्वेशन चेकलिस्ट criteria are already mentioned. You just have to write down your observation. Assess student engagement, use of experiential examples, and integration of 21st century skills. Right? We have already discussed this in detail. So all these criteria can be observed and written down on that checklist. ऑल्सो पीआई की जब हम बात करें तो इंक्लूसिव स्ट्रेटजीज जो इंटरवेंशन प्लान के थ्रू एक मिलती हैं हमें पीआई ऐप से, क्या वो यूज की जा रही है या नहीं. So it is very important for the VPs also, before going to the classroom, they should be aware about the students who are facing some difficulty in learning in that classroom. If you are going in a 8th classroom, तो कौन-कौन से वो बच्चे हैं जो difficulty face करते हैं learning में. Only then you will be able to observe better whether those students are being accommodated effectively or not. या कोई और ऐसा केस आप ऑब्जर्व तो नहीं कर रहे हैं जो ऑलरेडी अभी तक पीआई ऐप पर लिस्टेड ही नहीं है. राइट? This was about observation. The next category is evaluation. Sorry. So evaluation में the VPs have to review the lesson plan organizer and the lesson plan, because lesson plan की जो details हैं वही organizer में जा रही हैं. So they have to review both all together, whether they are in sync and whether they are written properly. They have to evaluate the CBA. They have to evaluate best project work, as we discussed in the teacher's role and responsibility. Teacher का काम है कि best performance top to bottom to वो सब VPs को present करना, submit करना, and VPs का काम है उनको evaluate करना और review करना. Right? Track TGT's contribution to the resource pool. It is very important कि अगर कोई टास्क allocate किया गया है तो वो टाइम पर कंप्लीट हो, ताकि हमारा रिसोर्स पूल जो है that starts that becomes completed. हर एक कॉन्सेप्ट के लिए हमारे पास मल्टीपल लेसन प्लान्स एंड मल्टीपल असेसमेंट्स. The next category and very important category is interaction. Competency based learning is experiential learning, right? The child is learning something, the enhancement of the learning is there. So that engagement is very important in order to understand the students experience better. तो बच्चों से interact करना, how they are feeling in the classroom, how different they are feeling when the teacher is implementing the competency based learning, right? And their learning experiences can differ when it comes to different teachers. So आप एक बच्चे से भी अगर experiences पूछ रहे हैं, their learning their experiences are differing for different teachers, you can get a lot from that as well. Ensure Shri Aurobindo Society program coordinator attend follow up meeting with SCST. जो भी आपके स्कूल के coordinators हैं अलग अलग programs के लिए, जब भी meeting schedule की जाएंगी, so obviously it is their responsibility to be part of those meetings, but you have to ensure they are part of those meetings, right? Thirdly, provide constructive feedback. Now, as I mentioned in the monitoring part as well, that monitoring is important not just to scrutinize or picking out flaws, but it is also important to share ideas, to exchange ideas, to give suggestion, to handhold somebody, to give them the appropriate feedback that can be worked on. तभी यहाँ पर constructive feedback mention किया गया है. आप if you are going to classroom of different teachers, you might encounter different environment there. Some teacher might be implementing their lessons, their competency based lesson plan very effectively despite having a number of students, right? तो वो कौन सी प्रैक्टिसेस यूज कर रहे हैं, वो किस तरह से बच्चों को हैंडल कर रहे हैं, वो किस तरह की पेडागोजिकल स्ट्रेटजीज को यूज कर रहे हैं, those can be shared with other teachers as well as a feedback. If some teacher is feeling a gap, if you observe a certain gap in a teaching of of certain teacher, you can give the appropriate feedback to that teacher as well, right? Encourage teachers to upload evidence on the PI app. As we have discussed, there is an evidence gallery, and that is for CBL and CBA, but PI का evidence जो है that goes into the PI app. तो PI app पर आप प्रोजेक्ट इंक्लूजन प्रोग्राम के एविडेंसेस को भी अपलोड कर सकते हैं, and that you have to ensure that teachers do that on regular basis. Lastly, the documentation. Compile and observe summaries, TGT reports, and PI data. TGTs will submit their quarterly report, their monthly report to you. You have to compile all the observations that you have had in their classroom and the TGT's report, and compile a common document, make a common document that can be submitted as a report. Document best practices, gaps, and teacher training needs. कौन से, एज आई सेड, कुछ टीचर्स अगर बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस यूज कर रहे हैं, क्या वो सभी जगह इंप्लीमेंट की जा सकती हैं, यू कैन डॉक्यूमेंट दैट. If there are certain gaps that you see in teacher or multiple teachers, that can be documented. And if there is any certain needs, resources की कमी है या or any other needs that can help the teachers to enhance their competency based learning implementation, that can also be documented. Right. Lastly, prepare and submit a consolidated monthly report of all the 3 programs to the principal sir or ma'am. तो तीनों प्रोग्राम्स की इम्प्लीमेंटेशन को लेकर जो भी रिपोर्ट है वो प्रिंसिपल सर को या मैम को सबमिट करवाना इज आल्सो वीपीज रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. जितने भी डॉक्यूमेंट्स हैं जहां पर आपको कुछ रिकॉर्ड करने की जरूरत है, डेटा मैनेज करने की जरूरत है, ऑब्जर्वेशन शीट की जरूरत है, ऑल दोज डॉक्यूमेंट्स विल बी प्रोवाइडेड बाय अस एज अ रिसोर्स टू यू. तो क्राइटेरिया और चेकलिस्ट पॉइंटर्स वहां पर ऑलरेडी लिखे होंगे. यू जस्ट हैव टू फिल योर रिफ्लेक्शन, योर ऑब्जर्वेशन एंड योर notable data reflection जो भी आप नोट कर रहे हैं in that sheet, and that report is ready to be submitted. Right? Let's quickly have a look at those documents जिनकी हमने अभी बात की है. We have briefly discussed the teachers and the vice principal's responsibility. इसको भी एक document में compile करके that will be shared with you. TGT's monthly report, that is also a document that will be provided. All the criterias of the TGT's observation will be there. VP classroom observation, vice principals जब भी classroom में जा रहे हैं observe करने के लिए तो उनको क्या क्या criterias observe करने हैं और क्या लिखना है, that will be given there. VP's monthly report that they will submit to principal sir. Again, प्रोग्राम्स की इम्प्लीमेंटेशन, प्रोग्राम्स को किस आई से देखना है, कौन कौन से क्राइटेरियाज को देखना है, दैट विल बी मेंशन्ड इन दिस डॉक्यूमेंट. Principals quarterly report, the quarterly report for principals, again for all the programs implementation, considering the teachers report, considering the VP's report, there is a separate document for principals quarterly report as well. And lastly, there is a regional office quarterly report, which is just shared with you to see the bigger picture as well. So all these documents will be shared along with the PPT after the session, and just go through these documents. I have already requested this to principals. Again, I'll request this to vice principals as well. We will have a follow-up session, and in the follow-up session, we will start with the quiz. And in that quiz, obviously, there will be question regarding these documents. So please go through these documents thoroughly. If you have any doubts, question, or even suggestion, you can note it down. We can have a discussion on them in the follow-up session. Otherwise, if we see as at the end of the quiz, if we see there are some common gray areas or there are some common concerns which needs to be addressed, we will address them in follow-up session. But make sure you are part of that quiz in the follow-up session, because as I said earlier, everybody is interested in that quiz, in the result of that quiz, including the RO. So please make sure you go through these documents thoroughly and you participate in that quiz as well in the follow-up session, right? Okay, that's it for the session. If you have any questions, any doubts, any concerns, you can unmute yourself. Any suggestion, you can unmute yourself and you can share it with us. We have still 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, so some of us are still having issues with the attendance link. Let me check. I'll share the attendance link once again. Sir, I have reshared the attendance link. Please click on the attendance link and mark your attendance. Any questions, any doubts? Sir, it is unclickable. See, I think it is the problem that might be happening is because of the mobile phones that we are using. It's because when I see in the chat box, it is very much clickable. So it is clickable in the PCs, but I don't know why it is not clickable through the mobile phones. Here it is clickable. See, so you just have to click and this Google form appears on your screen. It's okay. What we can do is we can simply I can simply ask you to mention your names and your KVs. Whoever was not able to click on the attendance link and not able to mark your attendance, please mention your name and your KVs in the chat box. And also mention that you were unable to mark your attendance. Okay, so I'll note it down. Whoever has some issues, yes. Just give me a minute. Any page limit for lesson planner? No ma'am, there is no such page limit. Obviously आपके concept पर depend करता है कि there might be सब concept जहाँ पर सब concepts का number इतना ज्यादा है कि वो lengthy भी हो सकता है higher grades में especially, and there might be सब concept जहाँ पर एक page पे भी lesson plan आ जाएगा. Okay, so if there is no any other question, we can conclude the meeting. Thank you so much, everyone. If you're not unable to mark your attendance, you can leave your name and your KV's name in the comment section. We will take the name from there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir.
So do you have any question? Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your generous comment. KV1 Kalpakam, sir or ma'am, do you have any question?
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.